Mila, I don't think people understand what just happened to the idea of a video clip.
I think they're about to. A 5-second video generated from a single sentence that looks indistinguishable from a camera shot?
Indistinguishable, that's the word. And it's here. I'm Milo.
I'm Mila.
And this is AI Daily.
Today, we're obviously starting with Stability AI's new video model that just broke the internet. Then we'll cover new US government rules that just put a wall around AI chip technology.
And later in the show, the story that I can't stop thinking about, a new training method where two AIs argue with each other and somehow get smarter.
Let's start with the video.
Stability AI just open sourced Stable Diffusion 4, and the headline feature isn't just better image generation, which it has, it's text to video, and the quality is a step change from anything we've seen before.
Let's be specific. Previous models could generate a few seconds of video that felt floaty, uncanny, objects would warp, physics were optional. What we're seeing from SD4 is different. A prompt like a golden retriever catching a frisbee on a beach at sunset, cinematic, 8K, generates a 5-second clip with consistent lighting, a stable subject, and realistic physics.
The core innovation seems to be what they're calling a temporal diffusion transformer. Instead of generating frames and then trying to stitch them together, it seems to be conceiving of the entire video clip as a single coherent unit of data. It thinks in motion, not in static images.
Which is why the water splashes correctly and the dog's fur ripples in the wind. The model has an intuitive grasp of cause and effect within that 5-second window.
Right, but here's my disagreement. Everyone is focusing on the creative applications, and they are huge. But I think the bigger story is the open source angle. This isn't behind an API at OpenAI or Google. It's on Hugging Face right now. Anyone with the right hardware can download it, fine-tune it, and build on top of it.
I read the benchmarks differently. The hardware requirement is substantial. We're talking multiple high-end enterprise GPUs, which isn't exactly a consumer-grade setup. So while it's open, it's not yet accessible in the way Stable Diffusion for images was at the beginning.
For now, but the principle stands. The most powerful generative video model in the world is, as of today, part of the open ecosystem. That feels like a fundamental shift in the landscape.
The open question is how the ecosystem handles the safety and misuse implications of a tool this powerful. That part of the release notes was brief.
Which leads us directly to our next story.
The U.S. Department of Commerce, along with the Bureau of Industry and Security, just issued a new interim final rule, and it significantly tightens restrictions on the export of high-performance AI accelerators.
This isn't just about the chips themselves, like Nvidia's H200 or whatever comes next. The language is much broader. It now explicitly covers the export of the technology, software, and even the specific manufacturing equipment used to produce these chips.
It also introduces a new national security guardrail. This requires U.S. cloud providers to report when foreign customers are using their data centers to train large AI models that could have military or intelligence applications. It's an attempt to close the loophole of someone just renting a supercomputer instead of buying one.
The technical term they're using is density of performance. They've created a new metric to define what constitutes a high-performance AI chip, making it harder for chip makers to design slightly less powerful export versions to get around the rules, which has been a common practice.
The implication is a clear drawing of lines in the global AI supply chain. The U.S. is signaling that access to cutting-edge AI hardware is a matter of strategic national security, not just commerce.
And it puts companies like Nvidia, Intel, and AMD in a complicated position. A significant portion of their market is international. These rules directly impact their ability to sell to one of their largest markets.
The stated goal is to slow down the military AI development of specific adversary nations. The unanswered question is whether it will also slow down global scientific collaboration and the overall pace of AI development.
It's the difference between a scalpel and a sledgehammer, and the government seems to be reaching for the bigger tool.
Okay, on to the story that feels like it's pulled from science fiction. Researchers at a university AI lab published a paper on a new training technique they're calling cognitive resonance training.
I read the paper this morning. I had to process it a few times. It's an unusual approach.
It's completely counterintuitive. Instead of training a single AI on a massive data set, they take two identical models. They give them a complex problem, something with no single right answer, like a philosophical dilemma or a complex systems design challenge.
And then they have the two AIs debate each other. Model A proposes a solution. Model B must act as a red team, finding flaws in the logic. Model A has to then defend its position or integrate the critique. This happens over thousands of iterations.
Here's the bizarre part. The models aren't given any new data during this process. They are only learning from the dialectic, the argument itself.
But at the end of the process, their scores on a whole suite of unrelated reasoning benchmarks had skyrocketed. They became better problem solvers in general just by arguing.
The researchers theorize that this forces the models to develop more robust internal world models and a form of metacognition, or an ability to think about their own thinking. They have to learn to anticipate counterarguments, which is a higher order skill than just pattern recognition.
It's almost like they're developing intellectual humility. The model learns that its first answer is likely flawed, so it builds a process of self-correction.
What's most surprising is that this emerged. It wasn't programmed in. The researchers didn't teach the models how to debate. They just rewarded them for winning the debate. The complex reasoning was the emergent strategy to achieve that goal.
It raises a fundamental question about the nature of intelligence. Maybe it isn't just about having data, but about the process of refining ideas against resistance.
Also in AI today, a major Hollywood animation studio has signed a deal with an AI startup to use its platform for generating background characters and environments, citing rising production costs.
An AI-powered traffic management system implemented in Sao Paulo, Brazil, has reportedly reduced average commute times by 22% in its first month of operation.
The popular AI coding assistant, CodePilot, had to issue a major security patch after researchers discovered a vulnerability that could allow malicious code suggestions to be injected into enterprise software.
And finally, a new tool on the art platform ArtStation can now analyze a few examples of any artist's work and generate new pieces with what it calls 99.7% stylistic fidelity, which is both impressive and the subject of a lot of new lawsuits.
So, an open source model that can create reality, a government trying to put walls around the hardware that runs it, and a discovery that intelligence might just be the product of a good argument.
Just another Wednesday.
Does it feel like the ground is shifting faster these days?
It feels like the simulation is running at a higher clock speed.